Flight 447, Tragedy over the Atlantic, a complete investigation. Chapter 1, The Departure. On May 31, 2009, Air France Flight 447 was scheduled for its regular transatlantic route from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, to Paris, France. The aircraft was an Airbus A330-203, registration FGZCP, carrying 216 passengers and 12 crew members. It was only 4 years old with no known mechanical issues. The flight was operated by 3 experienced pilots, Captain Marc Dubois, 58, First Officer David Robert, 37, and Relief Co-Pilot Pierre-Cédric Bonin, 32. Flight 447 left Rio's Galeão International Airport at 7:29 p.m. local time. The weather at departure was favorable, and the crew expected an uneventful 10-hour overnight journey across the Atlantic Ocean. Chapter 2, Into the Night, the Final Transmission. As the aircraft traveled north over the Atlantic, it entered the Intertropical Convergence Zone, ITCZ, known for turbulent weather, including storms and lightning. At 1:35 a.m. UTC on June 1, 2009, Flight 447 sent its final verbal communication to Brazilian Air Traffic Control, AFR 447, requesting oceanic crossing. Shortly afterward, the aircraft vanished from radar. No distress signal was sent. The silence was sudden and complete. All attempts to re-establish contact with the aircraft failed. Flight 447 had disappeared over the Atlantic. Chapter 3, Initial Search and Discovery. Search and rescue operations commenced swiftly. Brazil dispatched Air Force jets and Navy vessels. France sent ships and a nuclear-powered submarine. On June 6, 2009, search teams discovered floating debris, seat cushions, and several bodies. The wreckage was confirmed to be from Flight 447. Still, the aircraft's black boxes remained missing, lying somewhere in the deep ocean. Speculation arose. Had the aircraft been struck by lightning? Was it a catastrophic mechanical failure? Was terrorism involved? No definitive answers could be found without the flight recorders. Chapter 4, Clues from the Sky, Automated Messages. The aircraft had automatically transmitted maintenance messages through the Aircraft Communications Addressing and Reporting System, ACARS. In the 4 minutes before the disappearance, the system sent 24 failure messages, indicating inconsistent airspeed readings, autopilot and autothrust disconnection, degradation of flight control systems. These messages pointed to a failure in the aircraft's ability to read airspeed correctly, which focused attention on the pitot tubes, devices used to measure airspeed. Chapter 5, Pitot Tubes and Icing Warnings. Further investigation revealed that the Thales manufactured pitot tubes used on the Airbus A330 were prone to icing in high-altitude storm conditions. Ice could block airflow into the tubes, giving false speed readings. When airspeed data becomes unreliable, the aircraft's autopilot automatically disengages, forcing the pilots to fly manually. Without accurate speed data, even experienced pilots can become confused, especially at high altitude in storm conditions. Chapter 6, Years in the Deep, Search for Black Boxes. From 2009 to 2011, multiple search attempts were launched to locate the wreckage and black boxes. Advanced sonar and submersible vehicles were used. In April 2011, a breakthrough came. A large section of the wreckage was found about 4,000 meters, 13,000 feet, underwater. Shortly after, both the flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder were retrieved and sent to the French BEA, Bureau d'Enquêtes et d'Analyses, for analysis. Chapter 7, The Black Boxes Speak. Data from the black boxes revealed the following sequence of events. At 2:10 a.m. UTC, the aircraft entered a thunderstorm. Icing disabled the pitot tubes. The autopilot and autothrust systems disengaged. Co-pilot Bonin manually took control. Due to unreliable airspeed data, the flight control system entered alternate law, reducing automatic protections. Bonin, likely disoriented, pulled the control stick back, causing the aircraft to climb steeply. The aircraft quickly lost lift and stalled. A stall means the wings no longer produce enough lift to keep the aircraft flying. Despite stall warnings, Bonin continued to pull back on the stick, possibly believing the aircraft was descending. The other pilots failed to recognize or communicate the stall condition clearly. For the next 3 minutes and 30 seconds, the aircraft remained stalled and descended from 38,000 feet to the ocean surface. Chapter 8, Cockpit Confusion, Breakdown in CRM. Cockpit voice recordings revealed miscommunication and a lack of coordination. Captain Dubois returned from his rest break to find the aircraft already in a deep stall. The crew never used the term stall out loud, and conflicting control inputs from the co-pilots confused the flight systems. This breakdown in crew resource management, CRM, the efficient use of all resources and coordination, was a major factor. Nobody took clear command of the situation. Inputs were not questioned. Decisions were delayed. Chapter 9, Training Under Scrutiny. The tragedy highlighted serious training deficiencies. Pilots were not adequately trained to handle high-altitude manual flying during unreliable airspeed scenarios. They lacked real-world stall recovery experience. Simulators used at the time did not fully replicate high-altitude aerodynamic stalls, leaving a critical gap in training. Flight 447 became a case study in how even experienced flight crews can make fatal errors under stress and ambiguity. Chapter 10, BEA Final Report, The Conclusions. In July 2012, the BEA released its final report. Key conclusions included: pitot tube icing caused airspeed inconsistencies. The autopilot disengaged, and the crew manually took control. The pilots failed to recognize the stall and applied incorrect recovery techniques. Inadequate training and unclear communication contributed to the loss. The report recommended improved training in manual flying skills, better stall recognition, and clearer cockpit communication protocols. It also suggested replacing vulnerable pitot tubes and improving angle of attack indicators. Chapter 11, Aftermath and Global Reforms. The crash of Flight 447 led to widespread reforms in aviation. Airlines revised pilot training to focus on manual flying and stall recovery. Airbus updated its procedures and improved cockpit systems. Pitot tubes across A330 fleets were replaced. Aviation agencies introduced more robust simulator training programs. The aviation industry recognized that while technology had advanced, basic flying skills needed reinforcement. Chapter 12, Legal Battles and Accountability. Families of victims pushed for legal action against Air France and Airbus. French prosecutors charged both with involuntary manslaughter. The trial began in 2022, and by April 2023, the court acquitted both parties, citing that while there were failings, criminal responsibility could not be proven. Still, the case raised ethical questions about corporate accountability and pilot training standards. Chapter 13, The Human Toll. Flight 447's 228 victims represented 32 nationalities. Among them were business professionals, students, families, and crew. Many were returning from conferences, vacations, or work trips. Memorials were built in both France and Brazil. Grieving families waited years for answers. For many, recovery of the black boxes provided long-awaited closure, though the emotional scars remained. Chapter 14, Legacy of a Tragedy. The crash of Flight 447 was a watershed moment for global aviation. It showed how minor component failures, when combined with human error and systemic issues, could lead to catastrophic consequences. The tragedy reminded the world that flying safely requires not just advanced technology, but constant training, clear communication, and readiness to handle the unexpected. As the BEA report concluded, this accident resulted from a succession of events, none of which was fatal on its own, but together led to disaster. The story of Flight 447 stands as a lasting lesson for the aviation industry, and a solemn tribute to the lives lost on that tragic night over the Atlantic.